Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Money Cure podcast. I'm your host, Sean Robert Grant. Happy Tuesday to you. Hope you are fantastic, guys. Hope you're doing extraordinarily well. It is quite the lovely day, if I do say so myself. And it's an amazing day to discover new wisdom, divine wisdom about ourselves and about, the truth of what actually is and not what we think it is. And so that's where I want to start off today, guys. Hope you're well. If you're joining us present time, thank you for popping in. If you're joining us in the future, thank you for downloading and listening to this recording. Your love, your support is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much for that. But let's get into this. And so today's topic talks about choosing either the world's economy or God's economy. And I always used to hear this growing up when I went to church as a little kid. And I never knew what it meant, I never really knew what that meant until truth was revealed to me. The truth of who I am and the truth of what actually is was revealed to me. And so the one thing I notice differently between, let's just start off here. The divine mind, which is God's mind, and the human mind, or the egoic mind, whatever you want to call it, is God's mind has this infallible tendency to just know. Right? It just knows. The egoic mind has this tendency to think and think and mull and dwell and drive itself completely and absolutely nuts about what's at hand. Right? And I'll give you an example of this. And this is good stuff, guys, because this really enables you to see if you're working from your divine essence or if you're working from your human essence, right? Which your human essence is there because it brings good usage, but sometimes I think we it's almost like placing the round peg in the square hole. We almost try to use the human sense to do a lot of the things that the divine can do so very easily. And so an example of that I wanted to really touch upon is, this is the money cure, so let's just look at money, right? So I want to give you a perfect example. Let's just say you're working, we'll give you two to kind of show you the difference. You're working from the ego sense. And let's just say you have $50,000 in your account, right? So in the egoic sense, you look at that, depending on where you are in life, makes you feel pretty good. You got $50,000 in your account. You're, able to basically, in most cases, do all the things that you want to do. Even with that amount, you could even put a down payment on a house. You could rent wherever you want to rent, whatever it is. And so you feel good about yourself. You start thinking. So it's interesting because when I said all those things, all of a sudden you start thinking about what you can do and what you can have. But there is an issue there that we're going to debunk here in just a bit. So you start to think about all the things you're able to do, and you let the outside appearance of this 50,000 enable you to feel like you have the power to do anything that you choose. Okay? And so through that, you go out and you start doing things, and all of a sudden, let's say like a week or two, or maybe even a few weeks later, it goes down to like 48,000. Well, guess what? That thinking comes back. And that thinking starts to fall along the lines of, maybe I'm using too much money, when in actuality, you're just using what you need to live, to be your best, to self-realize the person or the individual that the universe wants you to become. But your mind starts to go. Your mind starts to run off. Well, what if I ran out of money at this time? Or what if I didn't have enough to do this? Or what if I got to this point? And all of a sudden, these thoughts are just racing. And it begins to cause so much stress, so much so to the point where having 48 grand in your account, you're doing pretty well. You're doing pretty well, right? I think, because there's a lot of stuff you could do with 48 grand. But because you're rooted in your human sense, in your ego sense, guess what happens? You become so fearful. You become so fearful of losing that money that it drives you insane. And guess what? You wind up losing it anyway because your thoughts have been charged with so much emotion that it basically causes you to do acts to make you lose that money and lose it quickly, right? Because once the mind gets into control of it in this situation, not in every situation, but in this situation, it drives you off the side of a bridge and it takes away all your wisdom, right? Okay, so that's one example. Second example, let's say you are in your divine essence. You understand that you are God, right? And to understand that you are God, very first thing you realize, the very first thing you understand is this, guys. And it's an understanding. It's a knowing. It's not even a thinking. You understand that there can never be any lack. There can never be any struggle. There can never be any hardship. There can never be any failure. There can never be anything other than perfection when you are in God and God is in you. So that's the very first thing you need to know when you understand what your divinity is all about, and the fact that you are the God force, God itself, through and through, right? Closer than hands and feet, nearer than breathing. That's what you understand when you know who you are. So you go into that same situation, right? Go into that same situation. $50,000 in your account. You look at it and you don't feel much of anything. Yes, you feel peace because guess what? God feels peace throughout everything. Through everything. God is peace. Unlimited peace. Right? So there's no thinking involved. There's just a knowing that I am God. I am abundant. There is no lack. There is no struggle. I can live my life. I can do what I am led to do. Right? And so from that place alone, because see, your best stuff doesn't happen until you're in complete peace and relaxation. Right? That's when your best stuff happens. When you're in the state of inevitable peace and relaxation, of endless peace and relaxation, which is the God consciousness, right? Which we talked about here a couple days ago. And so you have to use your money to go and get stuff that you choose to help you to live your very best life. And then you go back to your account and you see that your accounts have gone down to $46,000. But guess what? You don't start thinking and mulling over the idea that, maybe I'm spending too much, or maybe I'm doing this, or maybe I'm doing that. No. It doesn't even enter your mind. What enters your mind is, I am abundant. There can be no lack within the divine mind. There can be no struggle. There can be no hardship. So you always know that in the very forefront, at the very beginning. And immediately it brings you to a level of peace. And then you look at your account, say $46,534.72. And You just look at it and you just realize it is what it is. There's no fear of losing it all. There's no pressure to make more. Okay? There's just a peace with what is as it is. And here's the thing. Even if you did have to know this, if you found yourself falling back into this place of, well, I just don't want to be in lack. All you got to do is realize, and this is the honest truth. I believe this with every fiber of my being. When you're living as the God essence, in the God consciousness, the moment any lack seems to appear, whatever you need shows up. And it's not even a case of you having to beg, plead, borrow. The Bible says, I have answered even before you call, which means when you are God, like you are, you answer your own prayer. So you already know that you've provided everything that you could ever need. You've provided every single thing that you could ever need for yourself throughout this life. So there's no need or desire or want to feel like you got to do something to prevent something else. You see, that's the difference. With the human sense, we're always trying to prevent and stop and hold up and rectify. And so that takes so much energy to do that, right? I'm trying not to go broke. I'm trying not to go bankrupt. I'm trying not to get into debt. When in actuality, all I need to do is understand that I am everything, and everything that I need will be provided to live my life. And there doesn't have to be any struggle. There doesn't have to be any pressing. The evidence is outside with the plants and the trees. Life provides for itself. God provides for itself to live freely, right? It's not about sowing seeds or any of all that stuff. Yeah, you sow the seed, but sowing the seed that controls everything, which says God is everything. God is perfection, which means you are everything. You are perfection, which means you have access to everything you need. But guess what? There are no needs, because in the God consciousness, every need is filled, so nothing is ever lacking. So the whole idea of need, and this blew my mind, no longer exists. The whole idea of need no longer exists. So, and understand the second part of that example, you can live your life because there are no preconceived notions and thoughts about how something could be a certain way or how something could be, a situation. You just operate from the place of knowing whatever you need will show up in whatever way is best, because you are God. And God always uses the very best avenues and outlets to provide for himself. Right? All you need to do is relax into that and understand the truth of that. And it opens every single thing up. Right? So that example in a nutshell just showed you the difference between the world's economy and God's economy. Right? The world's economy is predicated on trying to prevent stuff from happening. God's economy is basically just acceptant of the truth. You just got to accept one thing. God is everything. All that the Father hath is mine. I and my Father are one. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. All that ties into God is everything and I am God, which means I have everything I need already, which then what? Creates peace and allows that stuff to come in, allows that stuff to flow in, because I'm not fighting in my thoughts to try to prevent this or try to prevent that, right? That's the key thing right there. That's when we get into trouble, because we go against universal forces as opposed to opening the stream completely and understanding that we can never lack when we are in God. And we're in God's economy. We can never lack. And in understanding that, not only do you save yourself a ton of energy, right? You prosper easily and effortlessly. You find yourself involved in the stuff you desire to be involved in because God knows your heart. God is your heart. And it gives you all that you could ever need and desire to live out the actualization as God, as you. And it's just that simple, guys. It's just that simple. Anytime thinking is involved, take a step back and understand, accept, realize who you are. And when you know who you are, there's no need to think. There's no need to mull it over. There's no need to prevent. There's no need to say, you know what, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do it. No. No to the no. No, it's not about thinking. It's about being. It's about knowing. And when you know, God doesn't need time. God is not secured by time and space. He's not confined to that. When you get this revelation, things happen instantly. Things unfold instantly. Why? Because God is everywhere, all the time, every time, to everybody. There's no time to cover because he's already there in the future. He's already there. It's already been there in the past. He's already there in the present. And he can he can form itself into anything you may need. All you need to do is know who you are and never look back and never think about anything else other than who you are. And that will meet every need. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God is the message, and allow it to work. Guys, thanks so much for joining me. It has been a pleasure. We will talk soon. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.